Metal Gear Solid has returned. That's something I, and I'm sure a lot of fans, never thought we would be saying after the monumental fallout between Konami and series creator Hideo Kojima during the production of The Phantom Pain. For those who don't know, in the late 2010s, Konami, despite having their many successes, decided to step away from the video game scene in favor of pachinko machines, which are, gambling machines in Japan. I guess there's a lot of money in that. This ultimately led to an abrupt cancellation of all projects that were in production, the biggest one of all being PT, the playable teaser for the new Silent Hill game, Silent Hills. This went over just as well as you would expect, and the would-be final entry in the Metal Gear series releasing unfinished, depending on your perspective, definitely did not help. To the point a derogatory and viral hashtag was created at the company's expense. You know the one, starts with an F. And, to add insult to injury, Konami then released Metal Gear Survive, an open-world survival tower defense game set in a zombie apocalypse, the existence of which made a lot of fans very angry at the time. Although that might have had less to do with the concept and more about how zombies were being played out by then. Well, that and of course the whole paying for an extra save slot fiasco.
You buying a f***ing save slot, Joe? Is that what I'm seeing here? Are you buying a f***ing save slot? Are we doing this now, Konami? Are we doing this for real? Like, you can only play this game with one character and one save slot unless you pay us $10. What is this? What is this, $1? Purchase as 100 SV coins? What is 1,000 SV coins? I can't even buy the amount! I have to buy 1150 SV coins. You better not. You better not. Oh my God! Did I just buy that shit? Oh my God! $10 for another fucking save slot?
No.
Can I have $1?
Not even $1.
No. They go. Give me $10.
$9.99.
I mean, yeah, that was bollocks. However, despite all that, I still have not played this game to this very day. Although I've actually heard some more positive things about it in recent years, so I don't know, maybe I'll get to it at some point. So long story short, Konami had pretty much alienated their entire fanbase and practically abandoned the video game industry. Kojima did manage to find new success with the Death Stranding series, but the Metal Gear series ended on a bit of a whimper. It wasn't until the start of the 2020s where we started to hear rumours of a potential return to video games from Konami, with collections of many of their classic titles as well as remakes for Silent Hill 2 and Metal Gear Solid 3. Then, on May 24th, 2023, we would receive official confirmation. Oh yeah, MGS is back, baby. This was also where we got the announcement for the MGS Master Collection, which consists of Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, the first 2 Metal Gear games on the MSX, and even the infamous NES versions of said games being re-released for the very first time. So regardless of how Delta turned out, the original would still be readily available for modern systems. And the fact it's called Volume 1 raises a lot of questions on what's to come next, but we'll circle back to that at the end. After that, I actually tried to avoid seeing any more trailers from then on, as I knew I was sold on the game and wanted to go in as surprised as I could. But I will say I really dug the various interviews by the voice actors during promotion. Seeing David Hayter essentially back in the role of Snake after his, shall we say, abrupt departure was very surreal. Both Hayter and the boss's VA, Laurie Allen, went all in on the promotion for this game, the latter even cosplaying as her character. Wow, she really is the boss.
One more thing.
I just have to mention this part as well. For the longest time, the person behind the voice of Eva had remained a mystery, as it seemed this person, Suzette Minet, had long since fallen off the radar. But all of that changed during the MGS Legacy series, where we learned that the voice of Eva this whole time was in fact Jodie Benson, aka the voice of Ariel the Little Mermaid. So as you probably know, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater is a remake of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, a game released on the PlayStation 2. But it's not a remake in the same vein as Resident Evil, Final Fantasy VII, or the recent Silent Hill 2, where the gameplay has been overhauled and the story reimagined for better or for worse. The best comparison I can make is that Ninja Gaiden 2 remake that came out earlier this year, Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, as that's also a game remade in Unreal Engine 5, while still retaining the same story, same dialogue, same voice acting, same character models, and practically the same gameplay, but with a next-gen update. At first I was skeptical of this, as I thought since we were going back to where the series timeline started, this would be a good opportunity to tidy up the series continuity, now with the benefit of hindsight. Because in case you don't know, MGS is a very story-heavy series with a ton of retcons and plot holes. And even then, as much as I love the original Snake Eater, I'd be lying if I called it a perfect game, as there are some pacing issues, especially towards the start. And I'm gonna be brutally honest, I cannot stand these slideshow FMV cutscenes. So I was kind of hoping, since it's the original audio, they could include some new scenes with the characters doing something as the dialogue plays. Just anything more visually stimulating than this would have sufficed. But nevertheless, I was still excited for the release of this game, as MGS3 is already my favourite in the series and one of my favourite stealth games. And since I was finally getting into the idea of streaming on Twitch earlier this year, I thought it'd be a fun idea to go through Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3 and 4, as well as Twin Snakes, because old remake before new remake, that kind of thing, and it was fun. You can find them all on my alternative channel, While She Plays, but I must apologise for the inconsistent quality of these streams. I was relatively new to this and hadn't figured it all out yet. Hell, I'd argue I still haven't got it figured out yet, but they're there if you want to watch them. Now, I'm well aware I am a little late to the party with this video, as the game's been out for a couple of months now, but when have I ever been someone who bends the knee to the YouTube algorithm? Well, I'll probably have to do it at some point, only time will tell. Plus I was broke on release day and had to wait a bit, but oh well, better late than never I suppose. And it kinda worked out, as I heard there were serious performance issues on consoles upon release. They must have been patched since then, as I played the game on PS5 and had a relatively smooth experience. Now in regards to the original, the footage is mostly from the HD collection. However, I did sample some footage from the original PS2 version for reasons I'll get into later. And yes, this is the original version that was released in 2004, not the Subsistence re-release that basically changed how these games played for the foreseeable future. Believe me, I wish I did have it, but have you seen what that game goes for on eBay? I mean, look at this. I've had facelifts cheaper than this, come on. Oh, and if you're wondering why I'm using the HD collection and not the Master collection, well, the answer to that is very simple. I don't have it. Now for the discussion of the story, I won't go too in-depth, as I know at some point I'll want to do a Metal Gear series retrospective in the future, and it's better to save it for then. So for now, I'll just give the basic rundown, but don't be too surprised if a few spoilers come up. Just a warning. The story is set in 1964 during the Cold War. Naked Snake has infiltrated Russia to extract Nikolai Sokolov, a Soviet scientist being held against his will to help manufacture a nuclear-powered tank known as the Shagohod. Things later go awry as Snake's mentor, the Boss, appears and announces her intention to defect to the Soviet Union along with her former comrades, the Cobra Unit, and joins forces with the game's main antagonist, Colonel Volgin, much to Snake's shock before she beats the shit out of him. But that's just the prologue, the virtuous mission, if you will. The actual plot begins with Operation Snake Eater.
That's the title!
The CIA sends Snake back into Russia once again to find and assassinate the Boss. The reason being is that Colonel Volgin fired a nuclear rocket on Russian soil. Said launcher was gifted to him by the Boss, and so in a desperate attempt to disprove their involvement and avoid nuclear war, Snake is sent back into Russia to find and assassinate the Boss, stop Volgin, and destroy the Shagohod. And that pretty much sums up the game's story. I won't go too much further, I'll just conclude by saying I think it's fantastic, as it tackles a lot of complex themes such as loyalty, betrayal, and how where you come from shapes who you are. Characters have a lot of emotions, yet the game still manages to have really fun action cutscenes at the same time. Now even more so with this remake, as every character is far more expressive than ever. MGS3 was already pushing the PS2 back in 2004, as it was far more expressive than previous entries, but it would often slip into uncanny territory, especially Snake when he's looking a little conniving or when he's screaming in agony. Something about his mouth just doesn't look right. Here though, every character has been faithfully recreated with more detail than ever, the Boss showing 10 times the amount of emotion than before. The details on Volgin's scars look fantastic. The The pain looks even more gross and creepy, as does the end with his creepy eyes popping. Ocelot is back in his usual gay greatness, and Eva is certainly still Eva. Excuse me. The mouth animation on every character has also been massively improved, which is good because the mouth animations on the original were not the best. Better than MGS2's for sure, but still incredibly stiff at times, barely even syncing up with the dialogue.
At the lab, they've got a whole army of scientists there developing new weapons. Security is tight, but if you disguise yourself as a scientist, you might be able to sneak in. At the lab, they've got a whole army of scientists there developing new weapons. Security is tight, but if you disguise yourself as a scientist, you might be able to sneak in.
And of course, everyone's favorite, Colonel Raidenovich Rykov. Probably one of the more dated jokes in the game, but it could pave the way for any potential remake of MGS2 down the line, so there's that. The mask though looks cursed as hell, like Jesus, imagine if this was how they actually looked in Mission Impossible. Yeah, I don't think they'd work nearly as well. That being said, I've seen some argue that they're too overly expressive, specifically in the iconic final shot as Snake is showing a lot more emotion compared to his more subdued look in the original. Obviously I'm not discrediting the original at all, but the reason I think Delta's works so well is because it really shows Snake's emotional conflict here. He's just had his whole worldview shaken after hearing the truth, and he is coming to terms with regret at what he's done while also furious at the fact that he was used and manipulated the way he was. And so I see this as him balancing and controlling these emotions. But you know, that's just my 2 cents. As said before, the voice acting is completely unchanged, and the same applies to the game's motion capture, as that was also brought back over. And despite both being over 20 years old, they have held up beautifully and don't look out of place at all. In fact, I say the game's improved lip syncing has further enhanced these performances.
What's it going to be? Loyalty to your country or loyalty to me? Your country or your old mentor? The mission or your beliefs? Your duty to your unit or your personal feelings? What's it going to be? Loyalty to your country or loyalty to me? Your country or your old mentor? The mission or your beliefs? Your duty to your unit or your personal feelings?
I see you've got yourself a single-action army.
That's right. There'll be no accidents this time.
You call that an accident? Well, it wouldn't have happened if you hadn't been showing off.
What did you say?
It's a nice gun, I'll give you that. But the engraving gives you no tactical advantage whatsoever. Unless you were planning to auction it off as a collector's item. I see you've got yourself a single-action army.
That's right. There'll be no accidents this time.
You call that an accident? Well, it wouldn't have happened if you hadn't been showing off.
What did you say?
It's a nice gun, I'll give you that. But the engraving gives you no tactical advantage whatsoever. Unless you were planning to auction it off as a collector's item.
While it's not perfect, as I thought the way Ocelot was spinning this crossbow looked a little uncanny, as well as his face here, and in-game the same can apply to some enemy NPCs moving in a bit of an unusual way. I don't know how else to describe it really. Same goes for Ocelot's iconic reload animation during his boss fight, has a bit of that uncanny valley look to it. And while the visuals look great, there's no denying that, but am I the only one who thought during the survival videos Snake looked more like a PS3 character? It might just be a me thing, but I figured I'd mention it anyway. I've heard some new voice lines were recorded, but I'm pretty sure it's mostly minuscule stuff like some grunts and this one line from Eva.
Calorie Mate is supposed to be really good for losing weight.
Are you saying I'm fat?
No. Calorie Mate provides a nutritionally balanced source of energy, and it makes counting calories easy.
Are you saying I'm overweight?
No.
Anyway, let's talk gameplay. Many have said it's MGS3 with MGS5's mechanics, and I suppose that's true to an extent, as you can crouch walk, aim in third person, and CQC essentially functions as it did in the Phantom Pain, so all of that's a plus. As for the inclusion of the bullet drop from Phantom Pain, take or leave honestly. In the original, shots would move in a straight direction, allowing for tranq headshots regardless of distance. However, in Delta, you'll need to take height into consideration as well, since they now move in an arch, making accuracy a lot more challenging. I was skeptical of this at first as I just saw it as an unnecessary change, but I warmed up to it fairly quickly. I may not be the best at making headshots consistently, but when I do, man is it satisfying. Oh, can I get him from here? Oh my god, did you see that? Please tell me you saw that. I will say the mechanics for throwing have been greatly improved. In the original, you had to be so accurate with your throws as there was no indicator of any kind. Now you can see where you're aiming at all times, making the cool as hell feature of setting deadly snakes and insects on your enemies much easier, but still satisfying. Which is good for me because I can barely aim for shit in the original. And it doesn't count as a kill either. For any no-kill stealth gamers out there, the game's got you covered. By the way, I just love the game's logic of, oh, you didn't kill him, the snake did. I don't know why, that's just a funny technicality. Speaking of which, not counting that as a kill is one thing, yet I'm shocked this doesn't count either. I'm sure he's fine. That being said, I thought turning while crawling was incredibly awkward, even caused me to get spotted a couple of times. Making sharp turns while crouch walking also felt unwieldy, and some of the animations did not look right at all. I mentioned some of the NPCs earlier, but Snake wasn't unscathed either. Some minor things like the roll feeling a bit delayed, not the worst thing ever, but still feels kind of off. They also changed the rail climbing animation, in my opinion for the absolute worst, because what the hell is this? Rather than vaulting like a normal person, he does this weird stepladder animation. And why does he drop like that? It looked so awkward and unnatural. I can't even come up with the words to describe it, other than the frame rate is breaking or something. Seriously, this looks really bad. As a whole, the game definitely plays well, and when compared to the original, it's definitely an improvement. But I'd still say the Phantom Pain has the superior controls. Another improvement is for the Keratin Frog collectibles. Yes, those little green bastards are back. But thankfully, keeping track of them has been made 10 times easier, as the game has a tally in the pause menu, they appear on the map after shooting them, and once you do shoot them, they will continuously spin around to no end, making the process of collecting them and keeping track of them a much more enjoyable experience. The same applies to the brand new collectibles, the Gakko Ducks. Just in case the frogs in all their glory wasn't enough for you. Boss fights have been mostly unchanged, as they seem to function as they did in the original. They did add CQC prompts at certain moments in Volgin's boss fight, but on whether you could CQC him in these moments in the original, I actually can't remember, not gonna lie. The boss got quite a few changes though, as the prompt for countering her CQC has been changed to no longer having to listen out for her grunts. And instead, when she grabs you, a brief moment of slow motion is your signal to attack. But it doesn't stop there, as there'll be multiple attacks immediately after, so watch out for that. It took me a few tries to get to grips with it, especially when she has multiple attack animations, but once you understand the timing, it's honestly not that hard. Actually, I thought her attacks after the first one were a lot easier to spot and far more generous with the timing. But whatever, you know what they say, wax on, wax off. Ah! One of the absolute best saving graces of Delta is how it simplified the camouflage system. Just by holding up on the D-pad, you can instantaneously pick the best camo for your current environment, and that's including the best combo for the necessary surroundings or situations. Same goes for the survival viewer, as when you get injured, poisoned, or just have leeches on you, the game will prompt you, meaning you can sort it out in no time. If you're someone who played the original Snake Eater and found the constant switching through menus a deal breaker, well, you're in luck as Delta fixes pretty much all of that. Well, except for switching items in the backpack, that you'll still have to do yourself, but still, progress. And yeah, that just about covers the gameplay and its improvements, so in the end, if that was all you needed to know on whether MGS Delta is worth the price of admission, my answer is abso-goddamn-lutely. As it is still the same amazing game at the end of the day. The devs really went all out with the experience. I mean, they even went as far to add a legacy mode that not only makes the game look more like the original, but it even plays with the old control style and the fixed camera. The devs didn't have to do this, but I'm glad they did, as I respect the commitment. Now we essentially have a one-to-one remake of both versions of Snake Eater. I think that's pretty cool. I did decide to give the original on PS2 a quick playthrough just for comparison's sake, and because I've never touched it until now. And yeah, it functions just about the same, just a lot smoother really.
And look at him dance!
So really, just about everything is here and accounted for. The fun stealth? Check. The stylish cutscenes? Check. The intense boss fights? Check. The history FMVs? Check. Sadly. The really long ladder climb to the tune of Snake Eater?
I give my life, not for honor, but for you.
Check. Blackface? Check. Wait, what? Oh my god!
What? You got black stuff on you.
Where?
Here, and here.
What had me worried the most during pre-release was whether the cool secrets and Easter eggs would somehow not make the cut for whatever reason. But I'm happy to say, Delta not only has them all in spades, but it even makes an effort to include things that were left out of the later releases. I'm of course talking about the Snake vs. Monkey minigame, which was a crossover with Ape Escape, one of Sony's older IPs. This was exclusive to the PS2 version at the time, and sadly it never got re-released, probably due to licensing issues if I were to guess. So it's nice to have it back after all these years. Everything's pretty much as you remember it, and it was my first time playing both versions, and I'd say it's a decent side mode. You run around various sections of the game while finding and collecting apes in a quick amount of time, and now Astrobot has been added as a nice little bonus. The context for this minigame's always been really funny to me. Colonel Campbell tasks Snake with rescuing the apes as it's a rescue mission. Snake's utterly baffled, but Campbell plays it completely straight.
If it's like a hot damsel in distress, I'll think about it.
Well, it's not quite a hot damsel in distress, but it is a rescue mission.
Rescuing who?
Apes.
What?
Monkeys. But not just any monkeys.
You said monkeys?
Just listen. Your mission is to infiltrate the jungle and capture all of the monkeys.
Again. You said monkeys?
Yes, monkeys.
This isn't really my thing. If you want your monkeys, you better ask Spike or Jimmy.
Unfortunately, they weren't available.
What about me? I was on vacation.
Snake, we need you. If you don't do this, who will?
The mode may have been a PlayStation exclusive back in the day, but now both PS5 and PC players can experience this mode. And let me tell you something, did you think the chicken cap in MGS5 looks stupid? Well, if you complete all monkey levels and find all the Astrobots, you'll unlock these goofy banana caps which look so ridiculous and don't seem to do anything, but not as ridiculous as the crocodile cap, something I can't believe I nearly forgot to mention. Look at this thing. This actually helps you avoid detection underwater. It was already a bizarre inclusion in the original game, but here, with the Unreal Engine coat of paint, it just looks ludicrous. And I love it so much. But what about the Series X version, you ask? Well, they got something rather unique. Instead of Snake vs. Monkey, it's Snake vs. Bomberman. As Bomberman is actually owned by Konami, so it makes it much less of a hassle. And it gives Xbox players some unique content. But that's not even the coolest part about this. The coolest part is that instead of Campbell, it's actually Otacon and Mei Ling giving Snake the briefing, with brand new recorded dialogue as well. And look at this, they even gave Mei Ling her accent back.
I've already taken care of it.
Mei Ling? What do you mean you've already taken care of it?
Just like it sounds. I've already arranged for a partner for Snake's special training exercise.
You what? We were supposed to be joining the U.S. military's exercise in secret.
Snake is a legendary hero. Is there really any point in putting him through just any old training exercise?
And I just love that it's Otacon's little 8-bit model from MGS2, and Mei Ling even gets her own as well. How adorable. One last thing regarding Colonel Campbell.
Snake, you can't do that. The future will be changed. You'll create a time paradox.
That never gets old. Although, while I'm on the subject of things that are here, let's talk about one thing that's not here. Specifically the Fear boss glitch. Basically, in the original boss fight, if you used your fake death pill and waited till the right moment, you could get an easy win on this boss fight. Non-lethally, I might add. Was it by design? Probably not, but it was cool nonetheless. Sadly, it seems to have been completely patched in Delta. I learned that the hard way. Okay, I'm getting weird input delay. Where is he? What the? It didn't work. Where did he go? Anyway, back to the good stuff. That chopper that patrols the mountain area? Yep, you can still blow that up. Same goes for blowing up food supplies to weaken your enemies, although I've yet to try that myself. But I did manage to kill the end before the boss. Yep, that's here too. The idea of killing a boss long before the actual fight is just such an anomaly to me, but honestly it just further emphasizes the ridiculousness of this series and I love it so much. Honestly though, doing that is a double-edged sword because despite the end being one of the best bosses in the game, the stealth segment that replaces it is so damn good. I had never done this before and boy was it intense. Now I've mentioned stuff that were in the original release, but what about the subsistence content? Well thankfully that's all accounted for as well. The Secret Theater is also returned, not sure why it was cut from the subsequent releases, but it's good it's back regardless. So far the only one I've unlocked is this one where Sokolov fires a Kamehameha wave at this chopper, some of my favourites being this one where Raiden falls on Ocelot and the two kiss.
Created a time paradox. Don't mess with the future.
We are meant to be getting the multiplayer from Subsistence 2, so I'm definitely looking forward to that, as I've actually not played any Metal Gear Online. Not Guns of the Patriots, not Peace Walker, not even the Phantom Pain. Okay, updates. While I was making this video, the multiplayer has since been released, and I was actually wrong about it being the same as Subsistence's. It seems to be more its own thing. I'm assuming anyway, it's a bit bare bones if I'm honest. There's only 2 game modes, one is find a thing and keep hold of it before time runs out, the other is seize control of a zone before time runs out, so standard stuff. Could it have been a low effort job or was it just rushed? I'm inclined to go with the latter, solely because Eva sounds like this. Man, I could not unhear that. Doesn't help that there's only like 3 or 4 maps. Granted, they are laid out pretty well. Except this one. This map fucking sucks. It's way too small, the action is always in the center, and it is borderline impossible to spawn in without immediately getting your ass whooped. Actually, while I'm on that, spawning is shit too, because you have no idea if an enemy threat's nearby, and you could easily spawn with no weapons to defend yourself. Skill issue? Oh, I thought you were dead. I thought you were dead. Oh.
The enemy's firing on me.
I thought you were dead. Maybe. But hey, 2 things can be true at once. And hey, no need to let these gun mechanics go to waste because I'm probably not going to use them in the main game. Now, is it good enough to pull you away from Battlefield 6 or Fortnite? Highly unlikely. So I'm hoping they plan to do more with it, as there's definitely potential. In fact, this mode reminded me of how back in the old days, when pretty much any game back then would include some form of multiplayer component, usually to varying degrees of quality. Some of them were pretty cool and incorporated their style of gameplay with some fun and unique ideas, and others were clearly just tacked on with very little imagination. I'd say all it really needs is more maps, more modes, preferably ones that can fit more than 8 people. I think the original had a mode where one player controls Snake and everyone else has to hunt him down, essentially proving your worth as the world's greatest soldier. I think that'd make for a really fun mode, especially with the new camouflage allowing you to blend into the environment almost seamlessly. It looks cursed as hell, but it's fun nonetheless. Anyway, that's enough of that. Back to the other stuff. And hey, remember the Guy Savage minigame? You know, when Snake gets captured and Volgin rocks his shit after rocking his Casbah? Sorry. If you save and reload the game, you'll be brought into this dark gothic world with these zombie-like enemies that you fight with hack and slash mechanics. What's cool about the remake version though is that Konami actually got Platinum Games just to remake this side mode. I mean, it makes sense, these are the same guys who made Metal Gear Rising after all, and their more recent track record kinda speaks for itself. It's a pretty fun side mode, albeit on the simpler side, but it's stimulating enough. Apparently this was a prototype for a new IP akin to Devil May Cry and Ninja Gaiden, which does add up. Sadly that game never saw the light of day. oh well. Now that just about covers everything, but there's one more thing I wanted to save for last. I mentioned that you could kill the end early, skipping the entire boss fight. However, there's actually another way to skip this fight, and that's with time. If you save the game, leave it for a couple of weeks, or alternatively fast forwarding the PS2's clock, the end will just straight up die from old age.
Drop your weapon!
It's such a cool Easter egg, and again highlights the wackier side of the series. I was so worried Delta would have to leave this on the cutting room floor. Not sure why, but I just had this strange suspicion that modern hardware wouldn't account for something like that. So I went to fast forward time to confirm my suspicions, and folks, I'm happy to confirm...
Drop your weapon!
They did it. They actually goddamn did it. Amazing. So as a whole, I think MGS Delta is fantastic, and definitely one of the better remakes I've played, and I've played quite a lot, I'll tell you that. Few have gone out of their way to deliver a faithful experience quite like this, while still feeling new and fresh at the same time, which is commendable. With all that said, I can more than happily recommend MGS Delta, whether you're a hardcore fan or a newcomer to the series. This game is a must-buy, but who am I kidding at this rate? You've already played it by now if you were going to. But now the question remains, what does it mean for the series going forward? Where do we go next? I imagine the next thing to look forward to will be the Master Collection Volume 2, whenever that gets announced. But what happens after that? Do we get more remakes down the line? Maybe MGS 2 or even MGS 1, albeit a less divisive one this time? I mean, we've technically already got a new next-gen model for Raiden, so it'd be strange if we let that go to waste. But that remains to be seen. I'd be very curious how they'd handle it, as it wouldn't be as simple as MGS 3. The game's being designed with fixed cameras in mind probably means they'd have to make a lot of changes if they intend for them to be in line with the later entries. However, Konami, I must make one request. Just one tiny little request. If you do decide to remake MGS 2, if that's what's next, that's fine. I love the original, and I'd be curious to see what you do. But do not skip out on the skateboarding minigame, okay? It is integral to the MGS2 experience, and the fans demand it, okay? I don't even care about skateboarding, but I demand that you include the skateboarding side mode, okay? If you can include Guy Savage, which was a prototype for a cancelled game that never got made, then you can include the skateboarding prototype that was for Evolution Skateboarding. Okay? That's all I'm asking for. Please. Of course, if you ask me, a full-blown remake of the MSX games is what this series truly needs, and arguably has needed for a while. Not only would it basically be the equivalent of a new game, but like I said before, hindsight means they can better flesh out the stories for both games, allowing their place in the series to be even stronger. Some might think that's a pipe dream, but hey, Silent Hill got a new game after getting the remake treatment first. I can see Konami doing the same thing for Metal Gear, but like I said, time will tell. What matters though is that one of my favorite video game series has finally risen from the dead and has been given the chance to be experienced by a new audience, and I for one could not be happier. The future's looking bright for the series and I'm excited for what they bring us next. But that's all I've got to say for now. Hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to like and subscribe if you did. Tell me your thoughts in the comments, as any and all criticism is welcome. Hit the bell if you want to stay up to date. I'm hoping to start being more consistent with content output, as the next video will be the start of a retrospective that's been in the pipeline ever since I started this channel. Well, in its current form anyway. I won't say what it is, I'll just say it's not a retrospective in the traditional sense, but you'll have to wait and see. But until then, my name is WelshieXP, thank you for watching, and I hope you stay cool, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.
Cool guys don't look at explosions, they blow things up and then walk.